The call came in just past midnight. The wildfire had spread faster than anyone anticipated, swallowing entire neighborhoods in a matter of hours. Station 18 had been stretched thin, exhaustion settling deep in their bones. But when the dispatcher's voice crackled over the radio with a desperate tone, Chris Nolan knew this one was different. 911, what is your emergency? A trembling voice broke through the static. Please, I'm trapped in my house. I can't get out. The fire, it's everywhere. Chris's chest tightened. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. What's your address? I live at 264 Pinecrest. A cough, the sound of cracking wood in the background. Please, hurry. Chris signaled to his partner, Eddie, and within seconds they were racing toward Pinecrest. Flames painted the night sky with an angry orange glow, and Chris could already see the smoke curling over the hills in thick, suffocating waves. Hold on, ma'am. We're almost there, he reassured, gripping the radio tightly. I can't breathe. It's getting so hot. Chris swallowed hard. Find a room farthest from the fire. Cover your nose with a wet cloth if you can. We'll get you out. But as they pulled onto Pinecrest, his heart dropped. The house was an inferno. Flames curled around the structure like a living thing, devouring everything in sight. The front door was engulfed, the windows shattered, thick smoke billowing out in plumes. Eddie cursed under his breath. We can't get in there! Chris ignored him, pushing forward. Ma'am, we're here. Stay on the line with me. I can see the flames outside the door. Please, you have to hurry. He rushed to the back entrance, hoping to find a way in. Eddie held him back. It's too far gone, Chris. But he couldn't stop now, not with her voice in his ear. Ma'am, I need you to stay with me, okay? What's your name? There was a beat of silence, then a faint whisper. It's Emily. Emily, I promise we're doing everything we can. Can you tell me if there's another exit? No, they're all blocked. Please, I have a son. He's not here, but I need him to know I love him. And at neck, Chris pressed his forehead against the side of the burning house, feeling utterly helpless. Emily, you're going to tell him yourself. I need you to stay with me. But the coughing grew worse, ragged and weak. It's so hot! Chris clenched his jaw, his eyes burning, not from the smoke, but from the weight of what he couldn't do. He felt Eddie's hand on his shoulder, a silent reminder of reality. He had to say something, anything. Emily, I'm here. You're not alone. The line crackled, and then, in the smallest, most fragile voice, she whispered, Please tell my son I love him. The phone went silent. Chris stood there, staring at the flames that had taken her. He heard the house groan as the roof caved in, and finally, he let Eddie pull him away. They had to go. Days later, the guilt still gnawed at him. Chris sat alone in the station locker room, staring at his hands. No matter how many times he told himself they had done everything they could, it didn't feel like enough. Emily's voice haunted him in the quiet moments, replaying in his head like a broken record. Please tell my son I love him. He hadn't been able to do that. He didn't even know if she had any family left. He felt like he'd failed her, and there was nothing he could do to fix it. Then, one evening, he found something that stopped him cold. Tucked inside his locker, sitting neatly on his folded uniform, was a small, crumpled note. In shaky handwriting, it read, Please tell my son I love him. Chris's breath caught in his throat. He scanned the station, looking for anyone who might have left it, but the place was empty. A chill ran down his spine as he picked it up, staring at the familiar words. It was impossible. Nobody knew. That night, when he closed his eyes, he dreamed of flames. But in the center of the fire, he saw Emily standing there, her eyes full of something he couldn't quite understand. She didn't look afraid anymore. The next morning, Chris found himself parked outside an address he had pulled from the fire records. It was Emily's sister's house. He sat in his truck, debating whether to knock, whether to fulfill his promise. Finally, with trembling hands, he stepped out and rang the bell. A middle-aged woman answered, looking at him with tired eyes. Can I help you? Chris swallowed past the lump in his throat. I was there when Emily... He faltered, but then took a breath. She wanted me to tell you. She loved her son. So much. Tears welled in the woman's eyes, and for a moment, she didn't speak. Then she nodded, her voice breaking. Thank you. He needs to hear that. As Chris turned to leave, the weight on his chest felt a little lighter. Maybe, just maybe, he could carry this burden. But as he drove away, his radio crackled to life. "Chris!" He froze, gripping the wheel, staring at the radio. The voice was faint, familiar. "Thank you." His hands shook as he listened to the static, but he knew, somehow, Emily had finally found peace. Some last words never leave you, some promises echo long after they're spoken. And sometimes, the ones we couldn't save find a way to say goodbye.